Johnny, when the company goes before the Public Service Commission to ask for a rate increase, a lot of people are going to look at the numbers on paper and they're going to say, wow, why would Mississippi Power ask the people of Mississippi to pay billions and billions of dollars? Can you clear this up for us? How much would the company be asking for to recoup from ratepayers? And also, is that fair, do you think?
I'm glad you asked that question, because this is quite frankly one area in which those who've covered this story over the last few years have sort of again and again gotten wrong. Our original estimate when we approached the Public Service Commission was $2.4 billion. And it's important to note, Mark, that that's just for that facility that you see here in the background, just for the power plant portion, okay? We couldn't construct the facility with a condition where we didn't have any contingency. So the commission came back several weeks, month or so later, and came with a new proposal, which quite frankly we could accept the conditions, and it provided for a 20% contingency. It's that $2.88 billion that was kind of a hard cap for this project, if you will. But it was just for the gasification, the gas cleanup, and the power plant portion. There are some other ancillary assets, some investments that we have to make to get that energy to our customers. Let me highlight just a few. The transmission lines, the CO2 pipeline that carries the CO2 that we capture back to the oil fields, the mine that you toured earlier. Those ancillary assets that would be constructed as a part of this project were not contemplated to be contained in that $2.88 billion. Okay? When you add all those things together and add it to it, the total cost that's recoverable from customers is more in the line with $4.14 billion.
$4 billion.
$4 billion, okay?
Okay.
Now, the much reported figure, Mark, is $6.7 billion. Our hard costs on this project are more like 6.7. But when we did the interview inside a little earlier, I told you I was proud of Mississippi Power honoring its commitments, okay? What that gets to, the core of what that gets to, is the difference between that $4 billion, okay, and the 6.7. That roughly $2.5 billion is what Southern Company shareholders, both Southern Company and Mississippi Power Company, is stepping up to the plate for that part of the overall cost here. And customers will never have to bear those costs, okay? Yes, this is an expensive venture. To build a power plant of this type that harnesses the values of coal in a much more environmentally sensitive way, to capture the carbon, all of that adds to the cost here. But what was contemplated was the 2.88 for the plant, plus all of these ancillary investments that have to be made, and that's more in the neighborhood of $4 billion. When we talked earlier about the in-surface asset proposal that's been approved, you take $1 billion away from that and you're left with $3 billion. Another proposal that we made to the commission earlier on was to take about $1 billion of that $3 billion that's left and securitize it. Never have it to go in our rate base. Right? So we get maybe the opportunity to recover the cost, but not earn a return on it. That's a significant concession that Southern Company is making with regard to mitigating the cost of this plant that ratepayers might actually be asked for at some point. And we're going to do everything we can to mitigate the cost impacts to our customers. But every time in the past that a utility or Mississippi Power has built a plant for the value of its customers, every time we've ever done that, it's generated a need to increase rates. The type of facility that you see us building here, we only build once every 30 years. And so, yeah, there's a bump in rates, just as there was when we built Plant Watson in Gulfport or Plant Daniel in Escatawba, but eventually the market comes back to us as we depreciate those costs. And in 30 years, we have a little bump in rates, and then we depreciate it. That's a point that I want to make sure that your viewers understand, and that Mississippi Power is holding its commitment, that any mistakes, missteps, lapses in judgment that we've had, we're stepping up the plate to cover those costs. We're not going to ask our customers to bear those costs.
So I just want to make sure I'm getting this correct here.
Right.
Constructing the plant and making it fully operational, is the most important thing at the moment, and it would outweigh any concern of passing billions of dollars along to the ratepayers of Mississippi Power. Am I right about that? Am I hearing this right? I mean, is that correct?
What you're hearing is that we have a regulatory compact, an environment that we operate in here in Mississippi. We have to plan for our customers' energy needs tomorrow, 5 weeks from now, 5 years from now, 25 years from now. And when we make those kind of investments, we have to have some reasonable sense that the amount of money we invest on their behalf is in fact recoverable over time through depreciation costs, that we can recover those costs and that we can earn a fair return. That's the regulatory compact that we operate in. Okay. Very different than a lot of other businesses do. If you owned a manufacturing facility and you had the opportunity to win a contract that would see you having to increase your manufacturing capability by 50%, you'd want to have a contract in place or a compact with that customer to ensure that over the life of that contract you'd be able to recoup that investment, wouldn't you? It's no different than the compact that we have with the Mississippi Public Service Commission. We have the responsibility to meet our customers' needs, and in doing so we have to make investments. But quite frankly, our shareholders and our company believe that if we've prudently incurred those costs, that we have a reasonable sense that we're going to be able to recover those costs over time. That's all we're asking for, is that regulatory compact that we've enjoyed for a long, long period of time stays in place and that we can recoup it.